The views and opinions expressed during Love and Life with Lena and Dave are those only of the speakers and guests and do not necessarily reflect the official policy or the position of our podcast hosts or affiliates. Any content provided is not intended to malign any religion, ethnic group, club, organization, company, individual, anyone, or anything. All right, let's do it.
You're listening to Love and Life with Lena and Dave, the podcast where logic is power and you take control. Thank you for tuning in and making the choice to listen in and get ideas for your own love and life. Now, here are your hosts, Lena Williams and David Vaccaro.
I'm David.
I'm Lena.
And we
How you
are
doing today?
Lena and Dave. I'm doing wonderful. How are you?
I'm doing wonderful, and I hope everybody listening is doing wonderful.
I hope they're doing fantastic.
Everybody,
as well.
but especially you, this particular listener, you, right there, you.
Yeah, you.
Speaking of listeners, can I just give a shout out to one of mine?
100%.
She's my friend Kim. I've known her since 1984? Anyway, maybe even earlier. She has listened to all 86 of our podcasts.
That's fantastic. What
And she's
a
like, oh,
good
I think
girl.
I've heard them all. And I'm like, 86? And she's like, yeah. I'm going on vacation. Maybe I'll re-listen to some of them.
I'm going to
listened
tell
all
you.
of them. I have to say
She's
that to
got
Kim.
me beat. I don't even think I've listened to all of them.
Yes, she does have you beat. That's
She
really
does.
sad.
Have you listened to all of them, even the ones we did?
That's because I have to. I'm editing it.
Oh, yeah, that's
There's
true.
no way for me not to hear it.
Uh-huh.
And then I have to listen over. Once a podcast, this is what I do. Hi, I'm Lena. This is the crazy crap I do. First, we do the podcast. Then I edit the podcast.
That's right.
I do have an app that helps me a little bit with the podcast, so we can get a lot of the bulk of the nonsense out of the podcast. So I'm not sitting here for like 8 days getting carpal
Right.
tunnel. And then from there, I actually listen to the podcast all the way through again, because as you're editing it, you can't hear all the little details.
Right. That's true.
So I go back through to listen to it see if it sounds like it's fluid. And it makes sense, because if I edit stuff out, I want it to make sense to the person listening, that we're not jumping topics or anything like that.
Right.
Then I put it up on the platform. The day it comes out, I listen to it from the platform.
Right. To make sure the platform
This
does
is
its
the
job.
insanity that goes on in my head. And I say to myself, okay, does it sound like it? I try to put myself in the position of somebody who just got a notification and said, oh, a new podcast is up. Let me listen to it. And try to, from the outside perspective, listen to. It's a little bit hard, but I do try to be objective about it. And then at that point, if it's really terrible, or I hear something, oh my God, I missed this or whatever, I can actually re-upload quickly an edited version of that before too many people grab it and hear whatever the error is. So that's how many times I listen to each podcast.
Yeah,
And I just did.
Because
Yes.
I think once it goes out to all the platforms, because we do have it set to just automatically go to all the platforms. So I don't know what happens if you change it after the fact. That's an
It
interesting.
does. It
changes.
re-uploads.
Oh, good.
I don't like it to hit. I don't know if it changes the numbers, and that's why I try to do it real quick.
Right.
If it goes on for like 3 weeks,
See, I
and
never
then I need to add a
even knew
piece
you
or
did
something
that.
to it, then it might skew the numbers of people who've already heard it, and I don't want it to drop the numbers, so I make sure I do it right away.
And so, for the record, the reason why Lena does this is because
Yeah, it wouldn't get done.
No, it absolutely would not. Because I believe in the whole live thing. And we were doing that at the beginning, and it was fine. It was good.
Yeah.
Lena just wanted it to be more perfect, and I'm cool with that too. That's okay. But I wasn't going to do it.
Right. And now that we're on, oh, by the way, I said we'd get up on YouTube. We are now on YouTube.
Oh, yeah. Fantastic.
So since that's happened, and oh, by the way, I've done that all solo by myself. Hello. Other than Dave going, oh, that looks great.
Yeah,
That's
I did.
pretty much all
I
Dave did.
did go look at it.
And I'm putting thumbnails up on each one to make sure that it looks like it's good visually.
Yep.
So you're not just looking at the same picture all the time. I'm trying to get specific.
Oh,
thumbnails for
really?
each
See,
one.
I haven't
Yeah.
even seen that yet. I've seen all the same thumbnail so far.
Right.
is what
No,
I've
I've changed. Some of them still have to be updated, but probably 75% of them are thumbnail now.
Look at you go.
Only
You
because I put the thumbnails up and then they dropped, and I'm like, what's going on? And it had just something to do with resolution and
See,
kind of picture I put up
and maybe the listeners don't understand. I do tech for a living, so I'm at a computer all day, every day.
So am I.
So that's true. That's true too. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I do
well,
about 60
shit,
hours
this
of
is not going to
network
work out well for me,
technicianing.
Lena.
You just suck, Dave.
I do suck. I do suck.
But it's okay. But
yeah.
wait, I have to give Dave his kudos. So I said, Dave, what would you like to talk about today? Granted, he gave it to me 15 minutes before we started.
Yeah.
But that's okay. He gave me a topic. And not only did he give me a topic, he actually gave me notes.
I did.
And I honestly don't think I'm going to live through this. Like, I'm going to fall off my chair.
I don't do notes, and anybody that has heard our past podcast will know I don't do notes. I like shooting from the hip, which I do. But the reason I did this is because I knew that it was a subject that I wanted to talk about, and it's going to be something like friends or something else. Ooh. And I actually did. I used AI. That's what it is. I'm not a note taker so I used AI and said to build me some notes, and it built me the notes, and I gave them to Lena because she likes the notes.
I like a little structure.
A little structure, sure. And I don't hate a little bit of structure either. And it's probably going to do us better this way.
Yeah.
So that's what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about when you first meet somebody and there's this spark that's beyond friendship. So you're just being friends, and then you notice that there's a little bit of spark there, a romance possibly. And that's an interesting part of any kind of relationship. So we're going to talk about that today.
So let's talk about, or let me ask how common you think this is, because so many people, at least that I know, are so intentional on something being a romance right away and trying to pursue the end game like before they go in the front door.
Right.
And
to me, I think,
today.
Yeah, it is. And to me, I think this honestly, and I'll be forthwith and say, I'm going through that right now. I've met somebody as friends, somebody that I just saw quite a bit, and we're starting to talk a little more, and there's definitely a connection there, or at least, and we'll talk further about this too, and because that's part of it. Is it just am I receiving the signals wrong? Am I incorrect? Is it just me? Or is it both of us?
Am I in this by myself?
Yeah, there's a million questions that get asked right now, which I find very exciting. And I think every relationship, in my opinion, should start like this. If it turns into something, that's great. If it doesn't, but that's how it's supposed to happen, I think. That's how it's always happened with me anyway. Any good relationship I've had starts like this.
I agree that the friendship itself, we've talked about this before anyway, where the friendship is not the most important thing, but it's good to build it first.
100%.
There's sometimes romantic contention early on, but I think skipping the friendship, there are some people who believe the friendship and a relationship are two different people, which is weird to me.
Yeah, that's crazy.
But so those people don't build a friendship. And once with our whole honeymoon episode, by the way, Bonnie, we're going to have her back maybe next month.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
Nice.
But the building of the friendship is, I think, the important substance to the relationship, right? And however you come at it, you can see somebody across the room and say, that looks good to me. Hey, how you doing? Whatever.
Right.
And if there's a friendship behind it, that's great. But also you can come in from the friendship angle and just get to know somebody as another person that you find interesting.
Doesn't that make sense that it would make more sense that way? Because look, if I looked at somebody and then I just immediately romance, right? It's immediate romance. I don't know. There's love at first sight could happen. I mean, there's a whole bunch more.
I don't believe in it.
Yeah, that's like
Not
sex
really.
at first sight, in my opinion. You know what I mean? It's like, it doesn't mean that
There's nothing there.
It doesn't mean that I'm not sexually attracted to this person. It just means that there's steps that go along and you see where it grows. And I've talked about this a million times.
Here comes the plant.
Yeah, I'm not going to talk about the plant today because I'm actually growing tomato plants and I'm seeing what they're doing, and it's pretty interesting. But yeah, so if you don't know what that means, you'll have to go back to our other episodes and listen. And ta-da, you'll find out what I'm talking about.
Is it friendship or romance?
Yeah. So
which one of those podcasts is it? Anyway.
That's right. So the thing is that I think everything should grow organically in life. It truly does, right? If you, and it doesn't matter. Like some people force themselves into a job because they're desperate for the money, right? If you're desperate for the money and you take any job, you're not going to be happy there. And I believe it's the same thing with romance. If you're trying to force romance, it's not going to work. You can't force that. It's not possible. And I have friends that do it over and over again. They literally will have a problem with a guy or a girl, and then they're like, I hate that person, blah, blah, blah. And then 3 months later, they're back with that person again, complaining about the problems that they have. And I go, no shit. How many times are you going to do that before you realize that's not the one. And so,
Yeah, but we talked about this in season 1. How many people just don't want to be by themselves?
they don't, right?
And you can justify that and say, yeah, but people are supposed to be with other people and all that other stuff. And that's fine.
Sure.
But it can't be to the point where you're sacrificing
Correct.
your own well-being
Right.
and any kind of common sense.
Yeah, I kind of look at it as, hey, I've got bills that need to be paid. So should I go out and rob a bank and get that instant gratification? Because no, that's going to ruin the rest of my life. And I believe that relationships are the same thing. If you're tired of being alone or you're lonely, look, we've talked about this before. We get lonely. I've been a single man for 16 years. And sure, I get lonely. Of course I do. But
Right.
I make the decision not to just jump into a relationship just for the sake of being in a relationship, because again, it's like robbing the bank for instant gratification. If I get that instant gratification, chances pretty good it's not real. It's just something that I'm willing to take for the moment. And if you take something for the moment and expect it to be the big deal, it's generally not. That's the case.
I've been doing some coursework because I've been working on my attachment style. But there's a phrase that I learned that I thought was pretty interesting. And it's if you're driving down the road and you have a half a tank of gas, you don't have to stop, but you can stop. You have more of an idea of, you have more of a position to choose what you feel like stopping for. Hey, I think I'll stop at this gas station and fill up the rest of my tank, but I have enough to get home. If I decide I don't want to do it, then I'm fine. But when you're on vapors, it's any gas station.
Correct.
And you're hoping you see one, period.
That's right. And it
then
doesn't
when
matter.
you pull in there, you got to pay what they charge you.
That's
There's
right.
nothing you can do about it.
That's
And
right.
that to me is like a relationship where somebody is responding to their loneliness versus, hey, I'm cool by myself.
Sure.
But it would be nice to have somebody else around that, like, I get that I vibe with, but I'm not going to
Right.
compromise myself.
Yeah, 100%. 100%.
So-
And to me, this part of the relationship, or whatever it is, because again, it's growing organically. Now, I will say that one of the things is there's a spark, right? And we talk about that if there's a spark,
Okay.
right? So when you first meet somebody, it's not like, oh, instant spark or whatever the case is. But, you know, the more that you're around somebody, if you feel that vibe all of a sudden. And that's what I'm going through now, right? We have more conversation. I noticed that our hug goodbyes are a little more intense.
Okay.
Public hugs. It's not like a big romantic thing, but they're definitely more, at least for me, from my standpoint, right? I feel it more. And that's a wonderful thing. So, and again,
more affectionate or more.
yeah, I think it is.
Okay.
It feels more affectionate. It's not just like okay, I'm giving you a hug because I have to give you a hug. There's that want there now. I feel that from her.
Right.
And that's a great feeling. Now, the thing is that, again, we go to that, there's steps in this here, right?
Right.
So you got one of the first, according to AI gave us some information, the spark. What's that feeling, right? Is it a feeling that I'm feeling? Is it a little more flirtiness going on? Is there a little more? And the question, is it from both of us or just one of us, right? So, and you don't know, right? You don't know till
Don't. But
that's okay.
I think
and
that's the exciting part.
of course it is. It's
Or
part of the.
it should be.
I think a lot of people are like, I think we're living in a society today where people are like, I'm not going to say anything until he or she says something first. I want to make sure.
Nobody wants to put themselves out there.
Yeah, and that's a shame, right? Because what's the worst that can happen? Let's say I put myself out there and I say, "Hey, I'm starting to like you, and I think we should hang out more and whatever." And she goes, "Yeah, I'm cool. That's not what I'm looking for." That's fine. It's not going to kill me. Number one. Will I go? Shucks. Sure, I will. But that's it. I'll
There are
live.
people who, by some of the examples that I've seen in recent months and years, that cannot deal with, like, it has to be something that works out. They won't consider that it might not work.
Yeah, that's a shame.
They have no idea how to respond to it if it doesn't work. They take it way too personally and they react and attack sometimes that when something doesn't go their way. And I don't understand how, in my opinion, nobody can understand that everything is a 50-50 shot.
Of course.
At least where this is concerned.
That's what makes it exciting, right? Because to me, it's like anything. I'm an entrepreneur, so I like starting new projects. And those new projects, either they're going to blow up into something or they're not. They're going to fizzle out. And I look forward to that. That's exciting to me. It's like, what's the next step? What's the next step? Oh, no, it's over.
Yep.
And that's okay. Oh, there's another company out there doing it. They're a multi-billion-dollar company. We're not going to compete with that. Game over. Right. Or you start building something and you go, oh, this is really cool. And you don't know where it's going to grow to. That's so exciting to me. It's like little kids, right? I love watching little kids. I love sitting there watching them play because they're learning and you don't know what the hell they're going to do until they do it. And so to me, anything that grows organically, it's amazing to watch. So being part of something that's growing organically is amazing to me. And so I think that people need to start looking at things like that as opposed to, oh, this is what I want. And if I can't have that, that would be like me going to see her someday and her going, this is not what I want. And I go, she's a piece of shit. It's not. It's a.
Do you know how many people do that?
I do. And it's crazy to me.
So there's something called sunken cost fallacy, which we've actually discussed before as an investment myth, right?
Right.
And there were people that won't invest or that won't make an effort unless they think they're going to get responded to in a good way.
Right. Exactly.
So it's almost like they won't even bother unless they know that the result's going to be what they want. And you can't live like that. Like it doesn't work.
No, you can't. You can't define what the results will be in anything that you do. Like I'm drinking a Dunkin' Donuts coffee right now. I don't know what the results of this going to be. Is it going to make me feel like shit? Because sometimes I drink Dunkin' Donuts or any coffee and I get all jittery and I feel like crap. Sometimes I feel great. And I don't know what's going to happen. I can't pretend I'm going to.
If you didn't know and you only wanted it to make you feel good and it made you feel bad once, would you stop drinking it?
Right. Exactly. Exactly. That's where we're at societally.
We're in New England, so that's just insane. Okay, let me just tell you that right now.
Right. I don't think anybody can stop.
Happening.
I know nobody can stop drinking Dunkin' Donuts. And honestly, listen, and they're not a sponsor, so I'm going to say this. And even if they were, I'm still going to say it. The coffee is not that great. It's not the best coffee, but we're addicted to it because it's part of New England. And I feel like I'm not a New Englander. Yeah, it's not. I'm not part of the culture if I'm not drinking Dunkin' Donuts coffee. It's insane.
I personally don't drink it.
Yeah,
I just drink coffee off my counter. I always do.
Yeah, I do too. My morning cup of coffee has to be. Although lately I've been drinking hot coffee from Dunks.
Yep, Dunks
on occasion.
Dunkies
from Dunks. Yeah, Dunkins.
So what do you think that we all have different opinions on what we think that spark actually is then?
Well, of course.
Is it chemistry? I think personally it's brain chemistry. I think it's brain chemistry.
Yeah, I think it's that too. And I also think it's, sure. And I also think I think the spark is also what you're getting from the other person too. The feeling you're getting from the things they say and do.
Comes from your brain chemistry.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, I could be completely wrong. You know what I mean? And the thing is that, and there's no rush in these things too. So even though you might feel a spark, that doesn't mean, I don't know, like I could go talk to her tomorrow and she could say something and I go, she's not the right girl for me. And it's as simple as that. It's not a big deal, but letting it grow and seeing where it goes is a great thing without pushing anything. I'm not trying to push anything, and she's definitely not. When there's all these different things you have to look at. You have to look at, like one of the questions here is timing. Why not now? Why not now? Because I don't know her well enough for it to be now. Right. And I'm a realist when it comes to that. And I think we all need to be.
And you're not trying to push familiarity, which
Correct.
I must say that's happening in the dating world. It's insanity.
It is. It doesn't make any sense.
You're meeting somebody that's trying to I get that people want to skip the beginning of everything because they don't like it.
Why?
Because they feel like I'm not saying I agree with it.
No, I know.
But it seems like people are trying to get off that initial stage and just to be involved already.
Sure. Would it be nice if I could snap my fingers and be sitting in my house watching TV holding someone's hand? Sure. But that's not real. That's not.
There are people that really think there's people out there that think
literally
that can be done.
So it doesn't make any sense to me. So let's say I call her up tonight and I say, hey, come over, watch a movie. And we sit there and holding hands watching a movie and be like, okay, now you live here and now you're my girlfriend. And what the hell? You know what I mean? That's insane to me. That's so insane.
It goes back to this thing where I think people's social skills are going bye-bye.
I think so.
And the gradual, obviously we're nowhere near where we were as kids. In the last podcast we did, which is more than enough, we talked about how was dating back in the day, but we were around people all the time. There wasn't much of a step to take to get into an involvement with somebody that you saw at school, you saw after school.
Well, that's because you knew them
That's
right?
what I'm saying.
Our
But
social.
that's common sense.
Yeah, of course. Our social, so we kind of skip that because our social structure is so different today. We're not around people all the time, the same people all the time. Where I try to be, like I go to the same stores and stuff and get to know the people, and because that's how you grow relationships with people, right?
Yeah.
I have an assistant now that works for me, and he's a good friend of mine now. And I met him at a Dunkin' Donuts. And honestly, when I first saw him, because he's so, what's the word I'm looking for? I don't want to be insulted, but too bad. He'll get over it. The thing is that
Defamation.
when I first saw him, I thought, this dude's like a meth head or something. He's so loaded with energy. It drives me nuts.
Yeah.
Everywhere we go, because you know me, I'm like a laid back guy.
I'm just as laid back as you are.
Exactly.
That's
why we get along so well. But we'll walk into a place and he'll be singing and stuff. And I'm like, God, I can't. Now I'm in the public eye because of this guy. And look, I don't hate it. I can only deal with it for so long throughout the day. And he knows it. He knows it too. And I've had
How
people
would
straight
Cry
up.
feel about it? Cry would love it.
Cry would have been fine with that. Absolutely. Introduce me to everybody. Because that was a thing. And if those of you who don't know who Cry is my persona that I had when I was a lead singer of a rock band. And so that's different though, because I had to portray that. It's kind of like what we talk about in the podcast, right? We stay logical in the podcast. We don't bring too much emotion into it. And and I'm sure I've had people listen to the podcast, Girls of Interest, in the past, and they're like, oh, we're definitely not the right person because of some of my things that I say in the podcast. That's quite all right, because if you don't get what the podcast is, you're not the right girl for me anyways. Because in reality, we have to, not that we're portraying people that we're not, but we're being more logical. We're not bringing too much emotion into it, because that's not.
Well, because there's enough of it in the world.
There's way too much of it in the world. I think that people are making so many.
I wasn't going to go that far.
Well,
I'm
going
to be nice.
I'm not. So I think that the emotional factor is that people are making decisions based on emotion rather than logic. And that doesn't make sense to me, because sure, it's good to have emotion. I'm not saying that I'm not an emotional guy, because I am. I'm more emotional than you are.
No, but everybody's more emotional than I am.
I know.
That's actually not true. I actually am. But people that really know me actually know that's not true.
She does have emotion. It's just she doesn't share it everywhere. Wild. Yeah, you don't share it everywhere until somebody knows you well enough that you feel like you can share it with them. That's fair?
That's fair.
Yeah. So, but I see people making choices based on just emotion, not thinking about the logic behind it. And so if this girl that I'm talking to all of a sudden says to me, I'm not interested, then my logic kicks in immediately. First time I go, oh, that's a bummer, because it's cool.
You're disappointed.
Yeah, of course. And again, we're just at that point where it's the spark. You know what I mean? It's just begun. So it's not anything that I'm like invested in or anything like that, right? So it's something that I'm interested in learning more, right? And so that is where people should go, not be like, oh, there's a spark, that's my girlfriend, or oh, there's a spark, that's my boyfriend. And that's
so hard to tell people this.
It's so insane that people do that. And so I'm in it right now. I'm at that.
Do you know that I feel
people?
I think people are in the world right now. I think people are just like pretty thirsty. They just think they're thirsty.
And that's, I never liked that word. And I think I don't like that word because of what it represents. I don't like.
I mean, in the sense that they're just, they feel, I don't know whether they are or not starved for attention, but there are a lot of people who feel like they are.
Right.
Okay? I don't know whether it's true or not. I think that the perception of that is, for them, is that they are. And so it's okay to get attention from someone and say, hey, this is really cool and I like getting attention from this person, without like steamrolling this person for more attention. Like, I can't explain it, but I just feel like these people they're at their lowest in their gas tank right now.
They're running on fumes and they need to find a gas station now. And that's crazy. I've always, even in real life, when I hit a half tank, I fill up. I'm never running on fumes. I have choices. If I'm going to drive a little further, I used to when I was younger. I don't anymore. My grandfather used to say,
when you're younger,
when you hit it, that's because you didn't have money, though.
You also throw caution to the wind when you're a kid, right?
You don't care about it. Yeah. Who cares? I've run out of gas before, right? No, I haven't run out of gas.
You know that meme where they say, are you A or are you B? And they show you a gas tank at half on that A. and
Yeah.
a gas tank at like E with like that little light on
Yeah.
at B, I'm A all day long. It doesn't make any
yeah.
sense.
Yeah, no.
I like to have options. I've always loved to have options.
Yeah.
And this that I like to be able to
that's
have the time to choose that's something that makes more sense.
That's the only way you get to have options is if you take care of shit at the beginning. Now so back to this
Yes, this friendship
the thing here. So there's a question of timing, right? And that's what we're talking about now. So why not now? Why are we not ready? And I'm gonna use myself as an example in this situation that I'm going through. Why not now? Here's why not now. Because there are circumstances that are in play, whether it's, and there's a whole bunch of things you have to look at. Is there a fear of ruining the friendship? No, I'm not worried about that because I'm not that person. Even if she told me tomorrow, I'm not interested in you like that at all, I still would be friends with her because I'm not trivial like that. Maybe neither one of us are ready yet. I know I'm not ready. I need to learn more. And there's that thing, there's a tipping point at some point where I'll be ready. I'm not ready.
Right.
I have no idea.
And you just let it happen naturally.
Right.
And also she has probably a lot of the same questions.
100%. 100%.
We don't that you're looking at.
We have to get to know each other first, I think, before we make any kind of decisions.
It's just the world to do it.
Of course, I have. And if I die tomorrow, I'm not going to miss nothing. You know what I mean?
Oh, sorry if we die.
Yeah, exactly. So people are like, "Oh, I don't want to die alone." Oh, you're gonna. No, nobody's dying with you.
Likes that, but it's the truth.
Unless you die in a car accident.
That's what I say.
That's it.
You know,
we've talked about this before.
Unless you were one of the guys in the movie Alive, or something like that, where it's a tragedy of several people, like the Challenger.
Sure.
And even then, you don't go with them. You all go in probably different places or whatever. But the point is, not wanting to die alone is a weird phrase that people use.
I know.
And I think it's a manipulative phrase. I think it's a
100%
terminating cliche.
So are you really like, this is what I think, and not to dwell on this particular thing here, but when you say, I don't want to die alone, is it because you want somebody to grieve for you when you die? And so like,
it's because people watch too many movies.
I don't care. Right. Because guess what? When you're dead, you don't know who came to your funeral. You don't know who cried. You don't know. I don't care. Because I won't be able to care.
I want to be with somebody in a room and die with them next to me. That I always think that poor person next to you. What do they go through?
Yeah, no, that's not right.
No, that's not good for them. So anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. So yeah. So
that's just me and Dave spinning off on some.
Yeah,
silly,
we do. We spin off for sure. But that's how this works.
But here's the thing I want to bring up. What about the tension of like, what if? Right.
That's a good one. Yeah.
Like. The uncertainty.
That's what I mentioned on a little bit before. Is it just me? Am I wrong? Am I reading signals wrong? Now, I generally don't read signals wrong because I'm not desperate to receive them.
Yeah, but you're double checking yourself.
I do double check myself.
You're self-conscious.
Yeah,
you're
absolutely.
in a position where you're not accurately reading your own, what have you.
Right. I don't just assume that, because I'm not one of those hopeful wishes type of guys. I'm not like one of those guys that goes, oh, I'm hopeful, so this is what it is. It's not. I think I'm reading it properly. Don't know. She may end up listening to this podcast and go, you're out of your fucking mind, dude. And that's okay. And I'll be like, wow, shit. I thought I was pretty good at this stuff. But either way, like I said, this is all part of
There's always an unknown element.
Of course there is. And that's a great.
So you can't,
I love the unknown
can't control
element. Of course and that's the nice thing about...
You don't want to, but...
Yeah, that's the nice thing about relationships. You don't control them completely.
No.
You don't, right? You don't, because there's two people involved, right?
Exactly.
So, and that's what I think people forget. When somebody really gets upset, so that's one of the things that, if somebody doesn't feel the same way I feel, I'll find out. Right?
Right.
And that's the exciting part of this whole thing is the unknown, right? I'm going somewhere I've never been before. And so is she, right? And if all of a sudden, I can promise you this, if all of a sudden she said to me, I want to be your girlfriend, I'd be like, wait, what? That would be a huge turnoff to me because how do you know that? And
if she was going to tell you that, she won't now.
She better not. I'm telling you now, don't do it. No, I know. So the thing is that, and we've had this conversation before where people try to push shit and that's stupid, man. Let it grow. We're having fun right now.
Right.
And even if I'm wrong, I'm still having fun. I'm learning the unknown. I'll find out what the unknown is. Trust me, it's just going to happen.
Always do.
Yeah, you always do.
And I say that that's why I like being, and it reminds me of being like in my teenage years, my high school years. You have this crush on somebody,
Right.
and it's just like this. I personally think the crush stage is exciting. I love it. And
It
when
is.
it becomes something other than a crush, it's almost like a letdown. It almost always is.
Oh,
Less exciting when you finally find out whatever it is
right.
that you need to find out.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean that it's bad, but it may not be as exciting as it is when you didn't know anything.
I think
Of the possibilities of it.
acceptance of the possibilities is a huge thing, right? Because in reality, just because I feel the way I feel now and I'm excited about it doesn't mean that tomorrow I'm going to wake up, I'm going to have a conversation with her or whatever the case is, and that's when I realize, nope, not the right one.
Of
But
course.
it's all part of it. But I think people assume that can't happen because if I feel this way now, then I'm going to feel this way tomorrow. And that's not the case.
And
The
there are
more
people who don't want you to change the way you feel day to day, and they're trying to prevent,
Right.
or they're trying to make you sign up, or they're trying to get you to set it in stone.
Right.
That you're never going to be feeling different about them.
Oh, that used to be the worst thing, especially when I was young. What are you thinking? Are we going to be together forever?
Oh, when you're a kid, when you're young,
I
that's
know
kind
you
of a
had
question
to
that
answer
makes
yes.
sense.
You had to answer
Yeah,
yes
I mean,
to that question because you couldn't
You
say
did,
I
but
don't
it's
know.
also a valid, typical question.
It is, but
as you get
I
older,
think-
you don't want to start. I hope nobody's saying that stuff to you now.
I think it still happens because the reality is I don't know what tomorrow brings. I could be dead tomorrow.
Right.
The hell. The thing is that you take things step by step. And as you learn more about that person, that's when more decisions can be made, right?
Right.
Like
Right.
because I barely know her. In reality, I don't really know a lot. I know some of her past. I know what she's like today, but I don't know any of her dreams that she has in life. And that could matter a lot. She could be like,
Right.
I'm good where I am. And I have no idea, like some of my ideas, because when I retire, I'm opening a farm. What if I meet somebody and they go, yeah, I would never live on a farm. I don't like animals. I don't blah, blah, blah.
Right,
I
right.
want to, it's like,
This is the process of elimination stuff that
of
you
course it is.
normally
It's
do.
going to happen, right? But I like that to go organically too, right?
Of course.
And the game that I play,
Except for your truth or dare. I don't know if that's organic, Dave.
keep my Q&A.
I mean,
That's
kinda.
not organic. That's cutting to the chase, right? It's when you get to the point where you're like, let's cut to the chase and let's ask some questions. And that's okay. Because here's the problem though, is I believe wholeheartedly that people lie during that Q&A.
Yeah, maybe.
I believe that. I've seen it, right?
Yeah.
So I remember I was talking to somebody and she was well off. And she's like, how come you don't go to a really fancy place or rent a nice apartment or this or that? And I said, I like where I'm at. I'm comfortable here. And she's like, okay. And so the initial thing is like my friends were giving me crap about staying where I stay and why don't you get a better place? You can do it. And I said, because that's not how I live. I'm simple. This is good for me. I'm satisfied. And I can unplug and leave anytime I choose. Once I rent an apartment, I'm stuck in a lease. That's not what I'm looking for right now in my life. So they accepted that. And she's like, oh yeah, they should mind their business, blah, blah, blah. 2 minutes later, she's like, I can't believe that you would just stay in a place like that. Aha. Touche. Truth comes out, right? That was the end.
Whatever. That's just
Yeah.
That's just not for you, I guess.
No.
I just don't. So
Yeah.
here's what I don't understand in the dating world, and we'll get back to you in a minute. It's
Yeah.
like if you don't like something and it's not for you, why shit on it?
Yeah, exactly. Just move on. If
Like
it's
what
not,
is with the negative,
Yeah.
reviews of things that
you
you wouldn't-
first of all, it's your opinion. It has no bearing on my bank account, my
that's what
my
I'm
life,
saying.
my
Like-
nothing.
Like
It
why
has-
in the dating world, if something isn't for you, like you open up a profile and as a woman, I'm going to use this, and there's a guy that's looking for somebody to date. Why list everything you don't want in a woman? Why?
Right.
Complain about I don't
Yeah.
want anybody I don't want anybody's kids' mothers, and I don't want anybody that's
Yeah.
fat, and I don't want anybody. It's kind of like, what is the point of going
Yeah,
through
you could
all of
you
that?
could you could do it the other way. I want somebody because I have a list and we've done it.
Right.
In fact,
But you
if
said that you and I talked, and you don't really like to list your list.
generally not, right?
Right.
I have my list for my own reasons, and Bonnie brought that to our attention. If you haven't heard the podcast with Bonnie Windsor on there, it's fantastic because one of the things that happens to us, and we'll be brief because that's not
Yeah.
what we're talking about today,
Yeah.
but you literally, your frontal lobe, which is decision-making part of your brain, literally gets swayed by chemicals that your brain releases, dopamine, and you are not making good decisions at that point. 100% of the time. It's just the way it works. It's amazing. And it's great that our brain does that. And it helps us give us time to fall in love truly with somebody. But the problem is then, yes.
What
okay.
Bonnie
So
mentioned was that
I
you
got
could be
it.
swayed.
Yes.
And you need a list to
all
stick
right.
to,
So,
correct?
yeah. So that's really what I'm trying to say is basically because of those things that happen with the chemicals in our brain, I want to be able to revert back to my list and go, am I being silly? Because if she's not meeting these things that are very important on my list to me, then I would be making a bad choice without knowing it because of the chemicals going on in my brain. It doesn't.
I agree.
It doesn't mean that some of my lists could be swayed a little bit because they have been in the past.
Sure.
And that's okay as long as it stays okay, right?
So I think what most people do is that they really go by, I like what this person looks like. I like what this person sounds like. I
Right.
feel like we're good when we're together. And yeah, there's some deal breakers on the list, but let's just worry about that later.
Right.
And I think both people think if enough investment happens in the relationship, somebody's going to bend
Yeah. Somebody's going to change.
to compromise to the other so that the relationship doesn't end.
And
And when
do.
it does, it's because one person decides they're not going to bend.
Right.
And so they just postpone the inevitable. That's what I
Correct.
think.
Because so let's say somebody bends, and we've talked about this in past podcasts, so we won't dwell on this either. But let's say I bend, which I have in the past. I met somebody, she was perfect in every way, except she was not affectionate. Right? That's one on my list. Must be affectionate. So, and I was with this person for a long time, and I was miserable because I bent, and then eventually I couldn't stay bent because guess what? We don't stay bent. Right? We're humans. We go back to the way we belong and the things that make us happy. So needless to say, we didn't make it. So the thing is that I think that in reality, we have to look at all these things.
It's just better to do that.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. Organic is nice, but it up front is good to find out
Yeah.
as many deal breakers as you can.
Well, of
or
course.
As many.
Of course. And that's part of the growing organically. Even though you ask questions, that's what I mean by growing organically, right? So if a leaf comes out and that leaf looks good, you continue on. If a leaf comes out and you go, that's a deal breaker for me, so be it. That's it. There's another thing here where it's the chemistry versus comfort, right? I don't think this pertains to my situation because there's not a comfort of a friendship already. This is a new friendship too. So there are questions, and we'll look at this too. If you have a friend and you start having feelings for the friend, there's that constant safety of the friendship, and then there's the thrill of romantic potential, right? So a lot of people are like, oh, will that ruin the friendship, or will that? But all it is honesty, and honesty is a great thing. If you can be honest about the way you feel, and it's not going to ruin your friendship. People are so worried about ruining it. Now, it'll ruin your friendship if you don't accept the outcome.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I was going to say.
Yeah.
I think that happens.
It does.
And it may happen with sometimes the person that you're talking to that's not interested in you, despite you saying, hey, I think that our friendship is good enough to survive all this.
Right.
They may decide they don't want to continue the friendship because of what's been said. That's life.
Right.
It's not something you want to happen, but you can't control it if it does. And somebody knowing that you have an interest in them that goes beyond friendship may not want to stay friends with you, even though, it probably won't hurt them in any way. You tell them, hey, I'm fine with friendship and nothing else, so don't worry about it. I can pivot.
Yeah.
Maybe they might decide that they don't care whether you can pivot, and they'll be the ones that in the relationship. But you can't. It's a bummer when that happens, but you can't.
Sure, you don't control it. And that's the thing is, first of all, I don't want to control somebody. So I'm not interested in that anyways. If they're not going to meet my needs on their own, and I do, that's what they bring to the relationship for me. They're meeting my certain needs I have as a man or as David. That's who I am, and I'm looking for certain things. And if they don't meet those needs, they're not the one for me. And then we have outside perspective. Of course, I've got outside perspective here. People are like, oh, I can definitely see the vibe between you two. And is that important? Not necessarily, because and I know her friends see it too, because they've commented on it. Okay. So if other people are seeing it, that means it's happening and it's not
Not just your perception or her
It's
perception.
right. So these are stages that we go through.
Y'all are not just imagining it.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So, and again, it could be maybe they see one side of it. Maybe they just see my side. And I'm just being forth with you today saying that, yeah, I definitely feel a spark. There's no question, in my opinion. And could I be wrong? Yeah, I could.
But that's life.
That is life.
So I'd like to play a game called "What's the Worst That Can Happen?"
Exactly.
And, I'm probably going to get into that with a specific side podcast. I got one or two that I want to get into. But what's the worst that could happen? If you tell somebody that you're interested, or you tell somebody that you like being around them and you enjoy their company, what is the worst that can happen? You stand up at Toastmasters and you give a toast, or you get on stage and you introduce a band. What's the worst that could happen?
Yeah.
And then really try to deal with what the worst that could happen is and say, all right, I've got safeguards in place for whatever this thing is that could happen. Like the absolute worst scenario.
Right.
Because that's what causes like all of this anxiety and frustration and all that kind of stuff gets caused by fear and
once you
all
have
that
fear,
stuff.
people get angry, right? And I see that all the time. Like if somebody doesn't give you what you're looking for, people get mad at them. And it's like, and I will say, and we're going back to this relationship I had where she wasn't affectionate. I got mad at her for that. And I look back at it now that I'm older and I go, what a dink I was. I was mad at her for being who she was. I knew who she was before I chose to be in a relationship with her. I made that decision of being in a relationship with somebody who was not what I wanted.
right.
And that's my own damn fault. Why would I get mad at her for it, right? If
accountability. There's something you do.
touche, accountability, big one. So if let's say one of the things that's 100% killer for me is if somebody's a drug addict or an alcoholic, right? If I get involved with a drug addict, which I have in the past, right? And I tried to make it work, the only way that it will work is if she changes completely. And she didn't.
Right.
So guess what? It didn't work 100%. And so that's the thing. So like, let's say I'm talking to this girl that I'm talking to now, and I find out that she's a drug addict. That game over. It doesn't mean that the flirting will stop. It doesn't mean any of that, but I know there's a limit. I know as far as it's going to go. Doesn't mean I wouldn't sleep with her. It means that I will not be ever living with her.
I will say that my sister and I had this little conversation today over her dating life. That there may be somebody that you might really like that person and you might get along with them and everything seems to be really fun and exciting when you're together and you may seem to have a lot of the same. But if for some reason there's one thing that can't manifest or something that can't happen that you need in order to be in a relationship.
Right.
It doesn't make you right. It doesn't make that person wrong.
Correct.
It just makes it just not for you.
Right.
So my point to her was, it doesn't matter whether or not this person meant to be deceptive or meant to
It's just who they
trick
are.
you or meant to be manipulative or
Right.
whatever. What matters is that like the outcome of your relationship with this person or your interaction with this person just shows as an overall result that like it just isn't for you.
Right.
You might like somebody, you want to talk to them all the time, whatever. You may see them, you don't see them enough, or they're not close enough, but it just means that you actually. I thought of you in that one time that you said, "I dated a girl that made me jealous," and I said, "Why?" And you said, "I don't know. It was just the way the reaction I had to her."
Right. Yeah.
And it wasn't anything she was doing.
Nope.
But I didn't like the way I felt.
Correct.
So I ended it.
That's right.
And it's like, it doesn't really matter. Somebody doesn't have to be up to no good for like it to be wrong.
100%. It just
has to be
like I was
for
the
you.
one. I was the one feeling like that, and she gave me no reason to feel like that. But because I did, I was like, "This is not a good relationship." I already
you
can
don't like
tell.
yourself.
For me, there's something wrong here, and it doesn't mean that she was doing something wrong.
Right.
But if I can never explain it. I don't know. I don't. It doesn't matter what I know. If I
Right.
go into a gas station and I have a gasoline car, diesel is not for me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's just not. Don't put diesel in your car. It'll wreck it. So when I felt like that, I was like, this is not normally how I feel, because I'm very much not a jealous person.
Right.
But I did feel like that. And I was like, this is not good feeling. Ugh, it's gross to me. Jealousy is nasty. So that I could never be in that relationship, no matter what the reason was. Don't know. I have
Just because
no.
your reaction to her was just something that you
Yeah.
did not
Nope.
appreciate. You didn't like.
Yeah.
You didn't feel good.
Nope.
And I was explaining that to her. Like, there doesn't have to be a specific reason why. It just has to be that the energy is not the energy that you
Correct.
vibe with. Like,
Exactly.
Of course,
Exactly.
she was talking to a couple guys, and one of them was like, she's like, I felt like I had to chase him, and I felt like I could never tell where if I stood, and blah blah blah. And then she ended up talking to this one guy that is extremely comforting and extremely forthcoming, and so she's like, I don't ever have to figure out whether or not he's interested in me or where I stand, or like I don't have any of those questions with this guy. And I'm like, so that to me, that sounds like that's a need of yours. You need somebody to reassure you. You need somebody to let you know. And in this case, the particular guy that you're with, he gives you that, so you don't even need to look for it. To me, that's a sign that this is a vibe and energy that works well for you,
Right.
as opposed to somebody that you're up in the air, you're anxious, you don't know what's going on minute to minute.
Right.
You
That's
don't
no
want
that's no
somebody
good.
like that all
Nah,
the
that's
time.
no good.
Even if they're not, even if they are into you, but there's
Right.
there's a specific way they communicate with you that
yeah,
doesn't
look,
work.
your feelings are very important. And
your
and
needs are.
Yeah, your needs and the feelings that you have. If you have like strange feelings about somebody, that's no way to be. You know what I mean?
It's just,
Yeah.
it's not going to get any better.
No,
I don't
it's
think those
not.
things get any better.
No, it really doesn't. Of course, if you know somebody really well, if you build that friendship first, right, then I know what this person's all about. And if I'm feeling like that, maybe I could work on it. Maybe it's a childhood trauma of mine that I haven't fixed yet or something like that's different. But again, at the beginning, if something makes you feel like that, then that's not
Why
it.
bother? There's no good.
No.
It does. No good can come from it. Doesn't seem like.
Now we've
And
got
in your case, you are building a relationship, or at least a friendship.
yeah, I'm building something, right? It is a relationship because a friendship is a relationship. You know how I feel. You build a relationship and it grows to where it's going to grow.
It goes wherever it goes.
Whether it's romantic, sexual, whatever the case is, I don't know. And that's the excitement about this, right? There's definitely a spark there, so it's going to go somewhere. Where? I have no idea. It could go right in the garbage. I have no idea. But that's the exciting part is that I think that today in society, we look at things too like, this is where I want it to go. And nothing goes directly where you want it to go.
No.
That's like putting a horse in the field and saying, go right there. The horse is not going to go right there. It's going to go where it's going to go. It may end up there, but it's going to.
You put helium in a balloon, you let the balloon go.
Right.
Once you let it go, you can't get it back. You can't change its direction.
That's right.
You can't do
There's nothing
anything.
you're going to do about it.
You just let go of it and walk away. You gotta
That's it.
And so, what is your next step, Dave? What do you think?
So that's
you wanna
it.
do next?
So yeah. So the question is, so my next step personally is just going to be let it grow to where it's going to grow. There are some issues that we talked about earlier that need to be looked at first to see if we can even take it to a next step. I don't know that yet. So for me, the next step is just to continue doing what we're doing and just see where it naturally grows. And I think that's important. I think, and I wish people listening to this, I wish the listeners would, hopefully they get something out of this. And that's why I wanted to share this today, because I'm going through it right now. And this is the way that I would handle it. And this is the way I am handling it. And I think more people need to handle it like that because it would have better relationships or not, right? Less bad ones anyways, right? Because if
to
they're
get
not
people
willing
to
to
understand
accept,
first that like the relationship should just organically go where it goes without trying to punch it into this box, trying to punch it into that box. Saying, I see this online all the time. This drives me crazy. And if you're somebody who posts this stuff, I'm sorry. But get them before they get you, and don't ever let them see you sweat. And like there's all this animosity towards like people who you think are out to get you. There's a whole lot of that online where people are worried about what other people are up to, and people that don't clap for you, and people who don't support you, and like it's just kind of like, can you just let it go and just live your life?
yeah, especially in a relationship, right? Like this thing that I'm doing, it doesn't matter to me what other people's opinion of it is. It doesn't matter to me where it ends up. It doesn't matter to me today, right?
Right.
So it's kind of like I'm living my life. She's living her life. And then we have this kind of little connection that we live together. It's very small. It's tiny.
Yeah.
It's not like I'm looking at it as
the smoke before the flame starts coming.
that's what it is right there. There's a little bit of smoke happening here, and I'm enjoying it, and hopefully she is too. And whether she is or isn't has no bearing on anything yet. You know what I mean? It doesn't, because if she's not, or she doesn't want that, or let's say her future can't include me, that's quite okay. That means that we'll end up friends because we keep friends. And if I have a connection with somebody, I maintain that friendship.
I'm living proof of
regardless.
that.
Yeah, exactly. Everybody thought that you and I were dating. They thought that because we get along and we talk so much. So we turned it into a podcast.
I still get that. Do you know people still say, I don't understand why you guys just couldn't date.
I
And
know.
you always bring up it's because Lena's not affectionate. That's actually not true. Let me say this. That's actually not true. I actually am. I'm just not.
Right. Yeah.
I'm not out of the gate real affectionate.
Right. Yeah,
Eventually
no.
I am.
Yeah, no.
With
Look,
the person
listen,
I'm with.
I
But
forced her into hugging me. Trust me when I tell you. She every time I see her, I give her a hug, and she's like, for Christ's sake. But that's all in
but
good
I
fun.
bust balls.
She does, and she does have affection. I've seen it, and she's a very caring person. I've seen that.
I'm pretty ride or die. My good
yes.
friends that know me.
Exactly.
Know.
On the outside, okay, so I'll give you an example.
Mm-hmm.
I went and stayed. I'm not talking to you. I'm talking to the listeners. You already know the story. Don't.
Fine. I'll drink my coffee.
So at one point I was staying with my dad when he was sick, and I couldn't stay there anymore. I'm like, I just can't. I needed to get the hell out of there. I needed space. And she's like, I got an extra room. Why don't you come stay here for a while? So I did. And I was staying there for a few weeks anyway, or whatever it was, maybe a couple months, but I didn't stay there every night. I stayed there sometimes. But I had clothes there. And do you know, Lena loves me so much that she bought a house. Now, I left there and I left some clothes there and some other things. And I totally forgot about them. Yep. And now I'm up the North Shore. She's in Rhode Island. So it wasn't easy for me to go down there and get it, especially when I was working so much. I just there wasn't enough time in the day. She moved to a house that she bought and brought my stuff there. Is it still there?
Yeah.
Now that's a friend, right?
You went to the dry cleaner. You have bags and bags of clothes. They're all sealed up clean, all folded, and they're in a bag. And he put those in my closet, and they're still in that bag. I didn't take them out of there. They're still clean. So
right.
I still have, I stacked them under my bed in the bags.
Now, this has been, how long has it been? Let's share. It's got to be at least 2 years.
It was when I got Took.
That's right.
Tucson.
That's
he
right.
He's going on 5.5 years old, or he is 5.5.
Oh my! So my clothes have been with Lena for 5.5 years.
Yes.
And she's loved me enough to keep those clothes. And
I got my dog in October of 19.
And that's when I was staying with her because Took was a little puppy.
Yep.
And so I gotta come get my clothes. I'm sorry.
You do. But listen, put your friend over there, your loud singing in Dunkin' Donuts friend.
Yeah.
Tell him to throw some damn wood pellets in a truck.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And you guys drive down to me. I'm short in bags anyway. So you guys drive down to me. I'll give you your clothes.
We'll give you some pellets. A pizza. Yeah.
You'll bring me some pellets. I'll pay him for whatever the heck it is that he wants me to pay him for. Hopefully it's cheaper than what I normally pay.
It definitely would be cheaper, if anything.
So you get to see the dog because he might have forgot who you are by now.
Oh, I know. That's been a long time. So
I know it sounds like Dave and I are in the same room because we're so technologically
right. We're
savvy.
both in tech. So if we don't sound like we're in the same room, then we suck.
Yes.
know? So, but in reality, this is an interesting thing. But in reality, Lena is a great woman, and she's obviously, because we're so close, she's kept my clothes for that long. So
what's I gonna do with them?
I don't know. Most people would have thrown them away by now and been like, "Screw yourself! You ain't picking them up. They're garbage." Or they gave them to a guy they were dating or something like that. I don't know.
They belong to you. Your clothes.
I know.
So I still have. See that? That's all your comforter, bed sheet. See all that right there?
Oh yeah.
It's like been to the dry cleaners a million times, but it's what I put on the spare bed.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that stays there though. That's not mine.
I know.
Yeah.
But still.
Yeah. No. Yeah.
I have reminders.
See? That's it. And it's been through the dry cleaner a lot, so it doesn't smell like me anymore. So she can't
it smells
enjoy
like
that.
The dog now.
Right? He's bigger
Well,
than
now
me.
I throw my. I have brand new washer and dryers now. It all just goes in there. But yeah.
That's phenomenal. So
Oh boy.
we're at that time.
We're at that time.
We're
running out of time.
And
do we want to say anything to wrap this up?
So no, I think you did with the next steps. And to me, the next steps should be, now there are other questions too. Now you may be in a situation where you're ready for that next step. And I think maybe just have a conversation if you feel like it's the next step. You can straight up say to the person, hey, is this something that you feel as well? Is this something you want to look into?
Because what's the worst that could happen?
Correct. Nothing. I already know in this situation, there are things that would prevent us from moving forward at this particular point. And that's okay, because I don't think either one of us, at least I'm not there yet.
Right.
So it's not that crucial. But if you're in a situation, have the confession. Have the confession talk. It's not
Right.
going to kill you. And then you have a choice of just letting it continue and see where it goes on its own.
Or
And-
somebody will bow out, and that's life.
Right. And because sometimes you wait too long, the other person's going to think you're not interested, or vice versa. Or if you jump too soon, you could push somebody away, like me. When somebody starts jumping at things and trying to move things along, I hate
Yeah.
that more than anything. It's
Yeah.
just like, let it just go. It'll get there. You know,
To me, once you have an established like interest and both of you are aware of it, I
Then-
don't know
then,
why
yeah.
you would rush it into anything.
yeah, you
Like, I
don't have to. It's going to go where it's going to go. You can't
Right.
force it. So anyway, I've been David.
have been Lena. I'm hoping to get Bonnie on for part 2.
That would be
And that's-
fantastic.
Yeah, she's been a little busy, but I did let her know, and so I think it will be an April podcast. But
That would be great.
We'll see what happens.
That would be great.
www.laneanddave.com. That's our website. All our podcast platforms are there, our social media platforms, including YouTube.
Yay, YouTube and all of
Yay,
Lena's hard
so-
work. Let's hear it for Lena's hard work. Oh, wait. Do I have the,
Oh boy.
do I have it? I don't know if I have it or not. I sure don't. I don't
Your
have,
applause.
I don't have any applause.
Is it?
Are you kidding me? I don't have applause on
You
here.
worked hard on that, dude.
I did. But we'll give you this instead.
Oh, okay.
Sorry.
Great.
Yeah, we'll sexually harass you instead of giving you an applause.
Gee, thanks.
But
appreciate
I
it.
applaud you for that. That was fantastic and
Yeah.
a lot of hard work. So I appreciate it.
We,
I'm sure
you
the
know, when
listeners
you
do
when you
as well.
subscribe to YouTube, you can of course watch. A lot of people are YouTube people, and that's it. They don't want to do anything else.
Right.
So there should be a good community there. However, you can leave us comments under the video there, which
Sure.
is a little different than
Yeah.
now. And then there is a way to send us messages under our podcast platform, no matter what it is you use. There is now an area where it says send a message.
Oh, that's great.
You can send a message and it sends it
And,
to us.
and you know what else
So
you can do? You can buy us a coffee.
You can
because
buy
we
us a
like
coffee.
And that's, what is that? You do
Say it.
I forget it.
Lanecoffee.com / Lena and Dave.
Yes. And in case you don't know how to spell Lena, it's Lana, and just look at the podcast title. You know how to spell it.
Yes.
Well, you guys
when
have
you're
a-
listening to it, you already know how to spell it because it's
Yeah.
already on your screen.
That's right. You guys have a fantastic rest of the month, and we'll see you next month.
Yes. All right.
Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye. Hey, you just listened to Love and Life with Lena and Dave. Thanks for joining us, and we hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please share the podcast, leave us a comment or review, and don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss any new content. We'll see you soon.